The machine at the center of a $9 billion company could not do the one thing she promised it could. Federal prosecutors laid that out in a San Jose courtroom, and 12 jurors agreed. Her name was Elizabeth Holmes. At 19 she walked away from Stanford to build a company called Theranos. She said the idea was born from a fear of needles, and a belief that no one should learn too late that they were sick. She named it Theranos, therapy and diagnosis, fused into a single word. The pitch was simple, and it was beautiful. One drop of blood, a single finger prick, could run hundreds of medical tests. No needles. No vials. An entire laboratory shrunk into a box small enough to sit on a pharmacy shelf, and one day, on your kitchen counter. She told it well. Black turtleneck. A low, deliberate voice. Unblinking eyes. She spoke about a world where a father didn't die because a test came back a week after it mattered. People didn't hear a business plan. They heard a cause. And that is the first thing the record shows about us. We do not fund spreadsheets. We fund stories. Give a hopeful person a beautiful enough reason to believe, and they will quietly stop asking for the proof. The money came, and the names behind it were staggering. Rupert Murdoch put in $125 million. The family behind Walmart's fortune, the DeVos family, wrote a check for $100 million. The board filled with former statesmen, a former Secretary of State, a former Secretary of Defense, and one of the most famous litigators in the country. A sitting vice president visited the lab and called it a laboratory of the future. Magazine after magazine put her on the cover. On paper, Theranos was worth $9 billion, and Holmes owned enough of it to be called the youngest self-made female billionaire alive. The rollout began in Arizona. Inside Walgreens stores, Theranos opened what it called wellness centers, and real people, ordinary patients, held out a finger and trusted the results with their health. That is the detail the later jokes would forget. This was never only a story about money. It was blood, and bodies, and choices people made about their own lives based on a number the company swore it could deliver. Here is what the trial established about the money. Sophisticated investors, people who move fortunes for a living, testified that they did not receive audited financial statements. They saw the turtleneck. They saw the board of famous names. They saw the magazine covers. And they decided that the crowd around her was the diligence. If people this important believed, who were they to check? That is the second lesson buried in the record. Credibility is contagious. We don't verify the powerful, we borrow their confidence and call it our own. Every impressive name that joined made the next one feel safer, until the whole tower was standing on nothing but each other. But the box could not do it. That was the fact underneath everything, and it never changed. The device they called the Edison could only run a small handful of tests, and it ran them unreliably. To fill the pharmacy contracts, prosecutors showed, Theranos secretly used ordinary commercial machines made by other companies, the very needles and vials laboratories Holmes said she was replacing, and even diluted the tiny blood samples to force them through equipment never designed for a single drop. When federal health inspectors finally examined the lab, the evidence showed, the conditions were so poor that Theranos was forced to void or correct tens of thousands of blood test results it had already sent to patients and their doctors. Numbers people had trusted. Numbers doctors had acted on. Erased, because the company could not stand behind them. Inside the building, young scientists saw it. Erica Chung and Tyler Schultz, the grandson of one of the company's own famous board members, testified about tests that failed quality checks, results that couldn't be trusted, numbers that shifted when they shouldn't. They raised their hands. They were pushed down. Tyler Schultz described being pressured by lawyers and watched. The fight reportedly cost his family a fortune in legal fees and fractured his relationship with his own grandfather, who sat on that board. And that is the third thing the record teaches. The person who says the emperor has no clothes is not thanked. They are punished first, isolated, doubted, made to carry a truth the room has decided it does not want to hear. Then a reporter started asking. A Wall Street Journal writer named John Carreiro got the internal whispers, chased them, and in October of 2015 published a story that pulled the first thread. The company that had answered every question with a vision suddenly had questions it could not answer. Regulators inspected the lab. What they found was so unsafe they eventually barred Holmes from the blood testing industry for 2 years. Walgreens pulled out. The partnerships collapsed. The $9 billion evaporated to nothing. By 2018, this was no longer a business failure. The government charged Elizabeth Holmes with wire fraud and conspiracy to commit wire fraud, the accusation that she had knowingly deceived investors and endangered patients to keep the money flowing. She pleaded not guilty. And in the fall of 2021, she did something few defendants dare. She took the stand in her own defense. For 7 days she testified. She admitted, under oath, to one detail that stunned the courtroom, that Theranos had added the logos of major pharmaceutical companies to its validation reports, making it look as though those companies had endorsed the technology. They had not. She said she believed it was appropriate because the work had been done in partnership. She admitted the fingerstick claims, the failures, the commercial machines. But she framed all of it as the honest mistakes of a founder who believed, who wanted the vision to be real so badly that she stopped seeing the line between what was and what she hoped would be. Her defense went somewhere darker, too. Holmes testified that Sunny Balwani, nearly 20 years her senior, her secret partner and the company's president, had controlled and abused her for years, shaping how she thought and worked. Prosecutors argued it did not erase what she signed, what she said, what she sold. The jury was left to weigh a woman who was, at once, the architect of the fraud and, by her own account, someone under another's control. Patients took the stand as well. One testified about a result that told her something frightening about a pregnancy, a result that turned out to be wrong. Doctors described numbers so far off they simply refused to trust them. Arizona would later force the company to refund millions to the people it had tested. And maybe that is the most human part of the whole record. The most dangerous lies are not always the cold, calculated ones. Sometimes they start as a dream a person tells themselves, repeated so many times, in front of so many believers, that the dreamer is the last one left who cannot see it isn't true. The jury deliberated for 7 days. On January 3, 2022, they came back. And their verdict was not the tidy story either side wanted. They found her guilty on 4 counts, 1 count of conspiracy to defraud investors, and 3 counts of wire fraud tied to specific investors who had wired millions on a promise the box could not keep. On the counts related to patients, the people who got the unreliable results, they acquitted her. On 3 other counts, they could not agree at all. Read that verdict slowly, because it says something sharp about how we assign blame. The jury punished the lie told to the rich, and hesitated over the harm done to the sick. The investors had documents, wires, signatures, a clean paper trail of deception. The patients had confusion, fear, and results that were hard to trace back to one moment of intent. Fraud against money was easy to see. Fraud against people was harder to prove. And so the law drew its line where the evidence was cleanest, not where the human cost was greatest. In November of 2022, the judge sentenced Elizabeth Holmes to 11 years and 3 months in federal prison, and in 2023 she reported to a Texas facility. The court later ordered her and Balwani, convicted in a separate trial, to repay roughly $452 million to the investors they had deceived. And here is where the punchline the culture built starts to fall apart. It is easy now to laugh, to call her a con artist in a costume, to say anyone could have seen it. But the whole point of the record is that they didn't. Not Murdoch, not the statesman, not Walgreens, not the smartest money in the country. They looked at a 19-year-old with a dream and a turtleneck, and they saw exactly what they wanted to see. The fraud wasn't only hers. The wanting was theirs. So when you meet the next founder who promises to change the world, the confident voice, the beautiful cause, the room full of important people already nodding along, ask yourself the only question the whole Theranos story was ever really about. Are you looking at the proof? Or are you just believing because everyone else already did? Follow for more.